Hello everyone and welcome back to Spoiler Warning, your premier wrestling news show with myself, Tom Colohue. There is plenty of news to go through today. Our top story will be a focus on plans for Summerslam 2024, including updates on a return schedule for Rhea Ripley, Becky Lynch and Liv Morgan's future plans as well. We're going to talk about why Bayley keeps getting left off posters. It's intentional, always a fun one. We're going to talk the USA Network getting an extension for WWE Raw until Netflix does eventually take over. We're going to talk Paul Heyman apparently blaming Liv Morgan for the failure of her previous championship run. There's a little bit of thank yous I want to send out, particularly to Wrestling Days, as well as other people who've come over for that, and the fact that we can celebrate that we're very, very close to 6,000 YouTube subscribers. We're going to talk about the people being pulled from the King of the Ring so far and the Queen of the Ring so far. That being, of course, Bobby Lashley, Drew McIntyre and Asuka. What's going on and why? We're going to talk about Jade Cargill entering Queen of the Ring and her chance of success. We're going to talk a little bit about where we are with Twitter right now, because to give you a hint, we're just over 3/4 of the way there. CM Punk has been announced as being rated 90 on 2K24. How is Drew McIntyre going to use this to advertise, the DLC? We're going to talk thank you cheese. That'll make sense, I promise. We're going to talk Sammy Guevara returning from suspension and plans for him at this time, as well as the BBC, the British Broadcasting Corporation here in the UK, reporting on the absolute travesty that is Clash at the Castle prices and how the WWE are not happy about it. Our final piece will be on Dave Meltzer giving Cody Rhodes versus AJ Styles 5 stars. When personally I thought it was the third best match of the night, but we'll talk about that, because every now and then we just like to talk about things. So we're about to get to our first piece of news. I do want to make sure everyone realizes there are 49 people here, only 14 likes so far. Let's get those likes rolling in, because once that starts happening, the viewership shoots up and then it becomes almost unassailable. If we get to about 100, we tend to stay at about 100, and we get to 100 usually by the time we're at about 30 likes. Really does help. Oh, thank you, Sean, for letting me know. Sorry if you're experiencing any buffering on the Twitch side. A lot of people saying hello. Brad, Jess, Leon, Dylan. Knight says, when is Seth Rollins returning? Once he's fit, most likely around Royal Rumble time. Robin Dave says hi as well. And Razar says, hello, Tom, how's everything going? Bailey says hi on the Twitch side. Spider Boss is talking about the King and Queen of the Ring. Sean says hi, Tom. Also says, I see Wrestling Days talked about your news about Alexa. Says he likes you and called you a trusted source, which I always appreciate. I did send him a direct thank you. Spider Boss, when it comes to Mercedes money, I don't know. It won't be because of a limited date deal. She's there, she's getting paid. Dylan says hi, Tom. Michael says hi, Tom. Spider Boss will get to that. Kevin says a lot of people said the tournament is cursed. It ain't. Noob says, hello Tom, how are you doing today? Doing well, thank you. Dylan says, I know this is probably not going to happen, but I have a feeling Ilya Dragunov is going to lose today, but he's going to lose via DQ, mainly due to Drew McIntyre. Dominic says, hi Tom, do you think the King of the Ring winner will get a title shot? No. Spider-Boss says, I think WWE doesn't add Bayley to the pay-per-view posters only to piss off fans. More on that shortly. Juan says, hey. Mark says, I'm here and watching in the background. Hope you've had a good week. Looking forward to the show. Good to know, Mark. Appreciate you being here. Bailey says, why is Mercedes money not being a driver of better AEW ratings? Or is the crew not watching until she actually has a match? Multiple different reasons. It's partly the crew not turning up. Absolutely true. And secondly, the crew isn't as big as people think it was. Dylan says, I feel like it's because Triple H is going to want to save Ilya versus Hunter free for Bash in Berlin. Depends if there are other plans. Robin Dave says, any news on Roman? Only what I've already reported. And Dominic says, please bring back the music. There was never music for lives, mate. Jay says, hey Tom, somebody close to Becky said she was checked out on Monday and wasn't feeling well. Do you think Becky's overworking? Who's reported that? Who's close to Becky here? LF says, what do you think of Meltzer's report that apparently The Rock wants to face Cody at WrestleMania and needed to be Roman, proper end of the Bloodline saga? More on that later. And Sid says, are you a fan of the system in TNA? I have no idea who that is. I'm not a regular TNA watcher, though I did watch some New Japan earlier. DM says, is there a chance Punk is clear by Clash at the Castle because both Drew and Punk tease something big is happening in Glasgow? There is a chance. There is not a likelihood. One says, speaking of Mercedes money, dirt sheets are quick to say she wants to fail. How she's a failure for AW. Like, why? Because people read that shit. So, our top story is, of course, the SummerSlam plans for Liv Morgan, Rhea Ripley and Becky Lynch. Yes, we're going to be going into all of them because there's quite a lot to cover. On Twitter a couple of weeks ago, I did mention that the WWE working towards a return date for Rhea Ripley of SummerSlam. Now, they have a number of options available to them here, and Becky Lynch has essentially been inserted into this storyline to buy them time. Pardon me. The original plan had Rhea Ripley beating Liv Morgan, firstly in a match on Raw, and to follow up, because it wouldn't be that conclusive, again at Backlash. After that, Liv Morgan would move on, and she wasn't actually in line for a championship. The injury to Rhea Ripley has really helped Liv Morgan's chances, and the WWE are really enjoying how excited people are by this Liv Morgan push and by the revenge tour. The heel turn is still planned, it is incoming. There was going to be an element of double turn because the WWE finally started to accept that Rhea Ripley's in a good spot. Right now, the plan for Liv Morgan versus Becky Lynch is up in the air because of Rhea Ripley's return schedule. The WWE have been left with a few different options. Now, originally, the plan was Becky Lynch working with Damage Control, Liv Morgan working with Rhea Ripley, and then Rhea Ripley moving on to other opponents in the build to eventually Bianca Belair. As I say, Liv Morgan would not have been a serious contender to the championship. Thank you very much, Martin. Appreciate you renewing your membership for a 19th month. More than a year and a half, sir. Thank you kindly for all of your time, your wisdom, and your friendship. With this in mind, when it comes to Liv Morgan, this is an opportunity now because the match against Becky Lynch in Saudi Arabia is not guaranteed to be a win. Primarily because, as I say, Rhea Ripley's coming back faster than they expected, and the WWE have some options available to them. After the injury and the hype to Morgan, WWE want Liv Morgan to come out of this with a bigger push. You know who else wants Liv Morgan to come out of this with a bigger push? Becky Lynch. You know who else wants Liv Morgan to come out of this with a bigger push? Rhea Ripley. Everyone involved is fighting to make this happen. There is an idea being passed around of a triple threat match to protect Rhea Ripley, who at that point would have very recently returned and wouldn't be able to be too involved in a one-on-one match. There are other options available. For example, Liv Morgan beats Becky Lynch at King and Queen of the Ring in Saudi Arabia. This may or may not be something that Becky Lynch is really pushing for. The idea then is at SummerSlam, Liv Morgan would lose the championship back to Rhea Ripley, normal service would be resumed, and Liv Morgan's championship reign would likely be largely forgotten about. This is one of the main reasons Becky Lynch is pushing for it, because it means Liv gets a longer championship run and can do more with it. There is another option that's being passed around, where in fact Liv Morgan loses to Becky Lynch, and this ends up being the better option. Because having lost to Becky Lynch retains the championship, goes on to lose the championship to a returning Rhea Ripley at or around SummerSlam, depending on when Rhea Ripley can return, and then Rhea Ripley goes on to lose that to Liv Morgan at a show like War Games, Royal Rumble. There is not at the moment talk of WrestleMania. That doesn't mean there isn't going to be. So it's quite possible that the best option on the table is for Liv Morgan to lose to Becky Lynch. Either way, what I can say is that while Rhea Ripley's return will indubitably result in another championship reign for Rhea Ripley, the plans to have Rhea Ripley hold the championship for a full 2-year stint have clearly changed. Becky Lynch was not supposed to be anywhere near this championship, and while there is a push for members of Damage Control like Io Sky, Dakota Kai, Kairi Sane to get championship matches against Becky, Becky doesn't feel a championship needs to be involved in order to make that happen. Liv Morgan is looking like she's getting more of an opportunity from this than she would have done otherwise. So personally, I'm very happy overall with the plans that are being put together. Next piece of news will be as regards Bayley and why she is not on the posters. Noob says, I know that everyone is upset this week that Asuka didn't compete at the Queen of the Ring tournament, but we owe her our thanks. Sid says, any news on Wendy Chu? She'll be waking up soon. Okay, JJ, do you mean Stephanie Hypes? If so, I doubt she would share intimate details like that checkout. I doubt that's true. She's very protective, and rightly so. DM says, Bobby's injury is at work. More on that shortly. Chris, welcome, says, good evening, Tom. Hope you're doing well. Doing very well, thank you, Chris. Nice to see you, mate. Sean says, I'd like to see Becky beat Liv and push her over the edge to where she snaps and turns heel. The heel turn before the championship win is something that the WWE wanted since Liv returned at the Royal Rumble. Martin says, good evening all, hope all are well. Lurking tonight while I drive, so I won't be on chat much. No worries, mate, always appreciate you being here regardless. DM says, WWE put themselves in a tough spot with Randy versus AJ tonight because both should not lose considering they just lost in Backlash. Yes, but Tama Tonga, Loa, Solo, Sikoa. Let's not forget also Tama Tonga's got a match tonight. It would make it very easy for both men to lose. I do see AJ Styles being the one to advance. Eric says, good afternoon, Tom. I'm glad that you broke the news about Asuka's injury. Yeah, that was a while back, and that is still the same issue that's happening. They want to give Asuka a rest, but they keep trying to get her involved in more as sort of a send-off. It's awkward. Roger, New Japan does not have a women's division. TNA have a very strong women's division. AEW have a good women's division, but it's not featured strongly enough. WWE at the moment have the best women's division. Joey says, hey Tom, do you see Drew versus CM Punk being saved for SummerSlam? I've been mentioning for a long time now, I expect Drew McIntyre versus CM Punk for the World Heavyweight Championship at SummerSlam. That has not changed so far. Spider-Boss says, so everyone wants Liv getting a push, but WWE doesn't let Liv defeat Becky. Let's be honest, WWE will not let Liv defeat Becky. Becky will be champion until Rhea's returned, which, as I laid out, might be the better option. Dylan says, I don't know if it's just because they haven't done anything with LA Knight, but I don't see him as the one to take the United States title off Logan Paul. I think they're building Jey Uso to take it. Jey Uso is on the wrong brand, I believe. DM says it's nearly a year since KO has won on PLE. Last time was a Saudi show Night of Champions last year. That's insane. Fact is, he's still a big deal regardless, so I don't really feel it's an issue. Joey says, do you see that triple threat match with the women happening in a big show like SummerSlam? The thumbnail literally says SummerSlam, for a reason. Joey says Bobby Lashley legit hurt, more on that later. Angel says, what are the plans for the Liv Morgan, Dominic Mysterio angle, and is Liv taking Judgment Day from Rhea Ripley? The plan essentially is just to guarantee that Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley have a storyline ready-made so that the second Rhea Ripley returns, she has multiple reasons to go straight for Liv Morgan. They're essentially attempting a Johnny Gargano-Tommaso Ciampa feud here, where Liv Morgan will be the most hated woman in the company by the time Rhea Ripley returns. There's a reason they're real happy with fan reception, particularly when you consider they're doing this in the background, and when it comes to the bandana in the pocket, that wasn't WWE. That was all Liv Morgan and Dominic Mysterio. It's also a way to keep Dominic on TV without him necessarily being too heavily featured to protect him from the obvious fact that he is injured. Jess says, as long as Dominic isn't involved, I'm cool with it. I think it's cringe that people are fantasy booking a love triangle. There's no love triangle. That's clearly not the case. One says, according to Dave Meltzer, reported a fan was kicked out this Wednesday for harassing Sky Blue. He wasn't the first to report it, but I will say, yes, they were. Fans, at times, are absolute dickheads. Sovic says, hello Tom, hope you're doing well. Is there any truth that Montez Ford is going to compete in UFC? Where do you hear that report, Sovic? Noob says, let's talk about Bayley not being on posters now because it's a thing since the start of this year. Quarter past, so in less than a minute I will get to that one. Bayley says, with this push for Liv, have WWE given up on a title push for Alexa Bliss? There is no connection whatsoever between Liv Morgan and Alexa Bliss. DM Hunk says, is Drew McIntyre still a top contender to take the belt off Priest? Yes, he is. Razar says, I really like Liv, but looking at the current Raw roster, I'd rather have Io or Dakota get a title run before her, to be honest. JJ says, that's what I was talking about. Thank you for the clarification, Tom. No worries. JJ. Gold says, why did they change SmackDown Queen of the Ring matches like Nia Jax versus Niven and Tiffany versus Davenport? Because essentially, they're rebooking it on the fly. Sean, I've already reported on the injury to Asuka. That's on my Twitter. It is, I believe, a knee injury. And it's just something that they've been keeping track of. She's been working through it. Kelly says, hey Tom, mate, I got caught up with Rhea Ripley news. Can't wait for her return. Michael says, WWE's women's division is not featured any more than AEW's. Depends what you define by WWE, because if you look at NXT, for example, massively oversaturated. Oversaturated is the wrong word. There are more women there being featured than there are men at times, and I'm happy about that. Overall, that brings the balance up on WWE. Next up, Bayley. Now, I know people are getting real hot about this, but just before I get into this one, we have 82 people watching, 37 likes. 3 more, guys. 3 more will keep that viewership increasing. I've massively increased to a point of gaining about 40 new subscribers in the last few days, and I'll be thanking a special someone about that particular thing a little later. But if we can keep those likes coming, if we can keep engaging in the chat, if we can keep talking amongst ourselves at times, I'd very much appreciate it. This is how you grow on YouTube. I'll also have a little bit about why we're growing so quickly on Twitter at the moment very soon. Bayley is being left off posters for PLEs intentionally. The WWE know what they're doing, and they are doing it to rile you up. Because when you get riled up, you back Bayley. And that's the point. The WWE are tracking social media, and since before WrestleMania, they've been tracking the reaction to Bayley not being featured. Bayley not being featured in the WrestleMania kickoff is believed to have been a turning point when it comes to what WWE are focused on, because the WWE saw the fan reaction to that moment when Bayley wasn't featured and thought, can do something with this. So that's exactly what they've been doing. They are aiming at this point to create the feeling that Bayley is being undervalued. And the reason that they're trying to do that is because they've seen what happens when Bayley is undervalued. Bayley might be champion now, but they don't want her fighting from the top because it's still a rather tenuous face turn, particularly with a Bianca Belair sort of not entirely trusting it. Now, Bianca Belair may well be turning heel. We've talked about that before. They wanted to do that in the build for Charlotte anyway, but we are where we are. Fans didn't take it. But against Bayley, they sense an opportunity. Bayley will still be booked as an underdog, and this requires you to believe that the WWE don't believe in Bayley. Triple H loves Bayley. Triple H did the entire Damage Control storyline to get that championship on Bayley. There will be no actual attempt to explain otherwise because there is no otherwise. They believe in Bayley. They're just trying to keep her an underdog after they made a few early mistakes with not featuring her. This is one of the reasons Nia Jax is going to be a key opponent for Bayley going forwards, and we're going to be seeing what that's all about very shortly when it comes to King of the Ring matches. Hector, we will be talking about Bobby Lashley shortly. Richard says, hello Tom, is there a plan to build a tag team feud for Bianca and Jade in the Queen of the Ring tournament? Nope. Eric says, completely off topic, but I've really been impressed with Lexis King. Was completely uninterested in him by him in AEW. Sometimes a different character really refreshes someone. There's plenty of people who are currently wrestling in AEW who didn't do great in WWE. Robin Dave says, so Liv possibly is not going to win the title. We don't know the result of the match at this point. I'm not sitting here giving anyone spoilers. I just want you to start believing, okay? For a reason. Joey says, I wonder if we'll see Randy versus Gunter in the finals. I remember you mentioned a couple of months ago Randy wanted to work with Gunter. Randy Orton essentially wants to work with the next generation. He wants to be a bit of a player coach, and there's an opportunity and a gap there that he can fill. Someone like Gunter would work very well with him. Dylan says, isn't Logan Paul a free agent? Yes, he is, and technically so is Roman Reigns right now. It's a very fair point, but championships stay on one brand. So, awkwardness there. Zane says, what a great match on next week's TNA. I don't regularly watch that. DM says, what's your reaction on Drew saying he would take Punk's girl if he was not married? The feud is getting more personal by a second. It's a weird one. I've reached out on this to try and work out what's going on there. From what I can tell, AJ Lee was flattered. But not really. Best way I can say it. Sean said, is there a reason why some of the Queen and King of the Ring matches are happening at live events? Yes, the WWE want to make sure, particularly Triple H, the matches on TV are not too short. And also, promising a King or Queen of the Ring match for a live show may boost live show attendance. Spider-Boss says, WWE's women's division isn't featured any more than AEW. WWE's women's division get few TV time every week. Again, NXT tips the scales. Joey says, is it true there are no creative plans for Dijak and Kiana James? No. There are creative plans, they're just not finalised at this point in time because they didn't necessarily have plans that would bring them in immediately. The plans are character development, and with Kiana James in particular, we're likely to see some backstage stuff and to see her paired up with someone rather than immediately dropped in at the deep end. Also for Dijak, they need him to sign a new deal first. DM says, WWE have not planned for Priest title defense in Saudi show. Could Strowman be an option? There are a number of people that could be options. I personally am looking towards Andrade. Marcel says, hi Tom and chat, how are you all? Doing well, thank you Marcel. Zane says, I'd like to see WWE bring back Nikki Cross. The day is coming, don't you worry. Joey says, do you feel Lyra being in the finals, it feels like she's in for a big push? Quite possibly. I do think, and if you've seen my prediction video for the men's King of the, for the King of the Ring, if you've seen my prediction video there, I definitely think NXT are going to come out of this looking great. Michael says, that's fair, I wasn't counting NXT. We've just hit 100 viewers. 100 viewers, 44 likes. One more to 45, and then we start the chase to 50, guys. You've seen exactly what's happened. You've hit like, everyone's checking to make sure they've hit that thumbs up, and just like that, boom go those numbers. It's a great moment and a great thing for me personally because it does guarantee growth of the channel. Please do continue. Sean says, I say, why does it matter who's on a poster? It's just a poster. It's McCade says, I've got an ad and watched it to the end for you. Thank you, it's McCade. Mustafa says, hello chat, hello Tom, chat rate up indeed, Mustafa, thank you. Spider-Boss says, fans already support Bayley. Bayley should be on posters just as Bianca and Jade and Becky. Fans do already support her. They could support her more. Sid says, I want to see Sheamus have banger after banger after banger matches. Your wish seems to be the WWE's command. Kevin says, triple threat match, cool. One problem, how Liv Morgan getting another opportunity? She lost Becky. She didn't lose Becky, she just lost sight of her. And when she goes down the corridor and turns the corner, she'll be able to find her again. DM says, Cody hinted to a potential match of LA Knight. Hope that's not happening anytime soon because LA doesn't need another loss in a world title match. Cody Rhodes has a number of people that he can choose. He can choose to be opponents for his current championship. For his current undisputed WWE Disputed Championship. He has a couple of slots that he can put people into. Much like John Cena, he knows the popular people. Spider-Boss says if WWE checks social media, they do, WWE should let Liv defeat Becky. Social media is a large part of the reason why Liv Morgan is in the push that she currently is. She's working with the champion for a much longer period than she was originally going to be, as I mentioned earlier. While you were here, let's not pretend you didn't hear it. Joey says the match of Ilya and Ricochet is amazing. You can see Triple H wants to feature Dragunov in a big way. I do believe it was the last spoiler warning on Monday when I did say Ilya Dragunov getting a real big push, guys. Michael says Warner Brothers Discovery could be close to losing the NBA to NBC. Hope that can bode well for AEW. Not entirely sure if it bodes well, but it definitely bodes. I think that's the best way to describe it. DM says Cody's match of AJ was the first time undisputed title match was clean with no outside interference in 2 years since Roman beat Riddle in June 2022, which should tell you everything about how the WWE view Matt Riddle. Spider-Boss says in 2022, WWE wanted the women's tag team champions facing the women's champions on pay-per-view. 2024, and WWE put the women's tag team champions on the Queen of the Ring tournament. WWE really doesn't care about the women's tag team titles. Not true. Simply not true. The WWE will not always have the women's tag titles featured and defended, but by pushing the champions, they are pushing the championships. I know some people disagree with that, but I don't think those same people would have disagreed if Sasha Banks and Naomi hadn't walked out of the company. Naomi was going to get a championship match while being a tag team champion. I don't hate that. Now, admittedly, I'm not unhappy with the choice that they made. I do support them in their right to do so. And I do support them in the actions that they've taken since. However, I don't think it's necessarily the worst booking decision you could possibly make to take someone who's currently a tag team champion and use them as a champion. When I first started watching wrestling, you know the tag team champions were? Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Undertaker. Because they were building to a match at SummerSlam where The Undertaker would challenge Stone Cold Steve Austin for the World Heavyweight title. Let's not pretend this is new just because it's happening to women. Sid says, I'm looking forward to seeing the return of the best women's wrestler in the world, the Queen, Charlotte Flair. Sovik, I'm honestly not sure, and you've now made me doubt it. I don't have the best memory, just so everyone's aware of that. So I'm not sure, but I know they were building towards an Andrade versus Damian Priest match. Dylan says, WWE having teased Finn Balor turning heel lately. When do you think they're going to pull a trigger and have him and Damian have a feud? Could well be seen. Spider-Bell says, WWE should pull a trigger on Finn Balor. DM says, is WWE planning an angle between Drew McIntyre and Sheamus? Or was that just a one-off burger promo? That was a way to keep Drew McIntyre from having to work too hard. And also a way to get some positivity around Sheamus after his return. It was very Maxine Dupree. Joey says, do you have any news on Natalia's contract status? Does she want to stay with WWE? Yes, there is no concern. Richard says, hello Tom, could we see Andrade versus Logan at King of the Ring, as Andrade was Ray's ally and Logan took the belt off Ray? Problem you got, guys, we're going to have Liv Morgan versus Becky Lynch. We're apparently going to have a Damian Priest match and a Cody Rhodes match. We're also going to have the finals of both the men's and women's King of the Ring, so King and Queen of the Ring. I don't think there's going to be any more matches because Triple H likes 5 matches. We have to consider that that's going to be it. Bailey says, Lyra Valkyria has the technical skills, but the next step is character development. Main roster fans don't seem to know much about her, nor I. Sid, thank you for letting me know. YouTube stream continues to go from strength to strength. KJ says, what's up, Tom? Thanks for getting me through all this traffic. No worries, mate. It's what I'm here for. It's what I'm here for. We currently have 49 likes. One more to 50. We have 104 viewers. I'm sure one of you hasn't hit that button. Sid says, will we see King LA Knight at the King of the Ring? No. Rizal says, do you know anything about Saudi wanting to enhance their deal with WWE, wanting to have a WrestleMania or Rumble there? Hope that's not the case. They did a Rumble there once and it was awful. They've always wanted a Royal Rumble or a WrestleMania there. They originally asked for the Royal Rumble, which is why the greatest Royal Rumble took place. This is not news. Eva Mike says, Cody versus Logan in Saudi sounds great. Eric says, Tom, random question, but if you're getting some news beforehand, does it ever affect your enjoyment as a fan? Yeah, all the time. All the time. Sean says, I see that Ronda said in her book she wanted to face Becky at WrestleMania 39 in a match similar to the one Roddy Piper had with Goldust at WrestleMania 12, but was told fans wouldn't be into it. Yeah. JJ says, let's say Becky does lose, would that make her a free agent? No. Jess says, why has WWE been teasing a Judgment Day breakup for 100 years? Because people really invest in that. Next piece of news. While Netflix takes over the WWE streaming deal for Monday Night Raw in January, they are not taking over when the actual deal with USA Network ends. So instead, the WWE have paid through the nose and allowed a very small amount by their standards of $25 million so that USA Network will continue to air Monday Night Raw until the Netflix deal goes live. This is one of the worst pieces of business they've ever done, because at no point were Netflix particularly interested in taking up the WWE before January. They are still working on their streaming structure, which is why, I don't know if you've noticed, Sami Zayn's about to have a show on Netflix, guys, check it out. And they are testing the streaming and the live section while they are doing so, to essentially check bandwidth while you're also doing 1,000,001 other things at the same time. The WWE will be one of the first big long-term non-stop live channels on Netflix, and I do expect it's one of those things that's going to be game-changing for media in general. Cutting the cable has never been closer. That said, $25 million is a huge disappointment for the WWE. One says, considering the NBA won $90 billion for barely drawing $2 million per game, maybe AEW can be renewed. As I've said, AEW will be renewed. Joey says, or at least get a TV deal. I've said they're getting a TV deal. Joey says, is the Sanity reunion still on the table or is that door closed? Closed entirely. Cody says, good afternoon, Tom. Interesting, the SmackDown move to the USA Network is happening a little bit earlier than expected on September 13th. The source is USA Network themselves. Yes, thank you, Gordy. That is also part of the deal with the $25 million. They're going ahead of time, and makes things a little simpler. Spider-Boss says, Logan Paul's defended the USA title twice. I don't see people complaining about Logan Paul not defending the US title often. I do. I think fans only complained when Roman was champion, and also Brock, and also anyone else. Sean says there's a lot of outrage for Bianca and Jade being in the Queen of the Ring tournament, and people are entitled to be outraged about whatever they want. Sid says, will Sonya Deville be returning anytime soon? Yes. Thank you for the confirmation, Dylan. DM says, since The Rock seems to like Drew McIntyre, is there a chance we could see a promo between both when The Rock returns? But I'm saying this, and I know it's almost impossible. The Rock does like Drew McIntyre. The Rock does want to work with Drew McIntyre. The Rock does not, at the moment, have time to work with Drew McIntyre. Jody says, who does Cody wrestle at King of the Ring? If you believe Dave Meltzer, we'll find out tonight. Richard says, Logan missed Backlash and he's featured on the King of the Ring poster. That's why I thought Logan would make this PLE. Dylan says, Sami Zayn versus Chad Gable versus Bronson Reed has been confirmed to be at King of the Ring. Thank you for reminding me. DM says, is Logan Paul versus Cody Rhodes an option for SummerSlam? For which title? KJ says, Logan's on the Saudi poster, so he could make the pay-per-view. He could, very true. You're right, Kervin. If WrestleMania was in Saudi Arabia, I wouldn't be watching WrestleMania. Spider-Boss says, interesting words from Ronda Rousey on her book about how WWE treat the women's division of WWE. The women's, okay. Seeing how WWE treat the women's division, prove Ronda is right. KJ says, hey Tom, would you happen to know the issue between Drew and Punk, or are they just working it? They're working it, and they're working it good. Jeff says, why hasn't Ricky Starks been featured on AEW lately? Because it's a bit banged up, mate. Bit banged up. According to Ronda Rousey in her book, Paul Heyman blamed Liv Morgan for the quote-unquote failure of Liv Morgan's previous championship run. Now, as I mentioned at the time, the booking for Liv Morgan was not by Triple H, it was entirely by Vince McMahon. I did say that it's not something Triple H wanted to book, and in fact Triple H was having a lot of problems with Ronda Rousey and her contractual obligations. He really wasn't enjoying working with her, and it's nice to see that's been confirmed, however later it was. So, another win for Tom Colohue, I would say, but that's me. Pat myself on the back, and I don't like to do that. I'm not entirely sure Paul Heyman was the one to blame Liv Morgan. From my understanding, Vince McMahon is the one who blamed Liv Morgan. Despite Vince McMahon booking it, he didn't want to take the blame himself, and he wouldn't talk to anyone himself, particularly given what was happening at the time. So yes, Paul Heyman did vocalise an opinion from Vince McMahon that Liv Morgan had screwed up Liv Morgan's own run. Ronda Rousey, to my knowledge, ain't lying and she ain't wrong. But it wasn't just Paul Heyman who was passing on the blame. It didn't originally come from him. I do want to send up a massive thank you to Wrestling Days and anyone here who also watches Wrestling Days and shared my work with him. I gave an update on Monday about Alexa Bliss, and it was picked up by Wrestling Days, who really put me over, and I sent him a message saying thank you, but I also want to thank him publicly using this forum. He's got a very strong audience, he's a very positive figure. I enjoy his work even though I don't really watch watch-alongs. I do enjoy what he does with his videos, I enjoy the way he makes his content, and again, I just enjoy that he's a positive, friendly guy. There are very few people in the wrestling coverage sphere who are genuinely positive or friendly. So I want to send a massive thank you. We gained substantial subscribers from him putting me over and sharing my work, to the point now that we are about 65 subscribers away from 6,000. 6,000 subscribers, which would be one hell of a milestone. If you've not yet done so, please do consider hitting that subscribe button. You'll get plenty of spoiler warning coming in your ears. Spider-Boss says, Becky reminds me of John Cena. Cena wanting to put over talents, but WWE didn't let him. Same case now with Becky. The issue is, whenever Cena would go into a meeting with Vince McMahon couldn't see him. Richard says, I'm glad WWE found a TV home for those 3 months, but yeah, that deal looked bad on paper because WWE had no leverage, which is true. Joey says, I wonder if Ricky Starks' contract could be up soon, since he hasn't been on AEW TV in a while. Nope. Dane says, I wanted to see Natalya win the Queen of the Ring. Disappointed, she is not. Angel says, what are the plans for the Bloodline storyline at SummerSlam? Will Roman return around that time? Roman is still expected around that time, but he's not as ironclad as it was. Essentially, Roman is intentionally staying out of the way at the moment to make sure the Bloodline, and Solo Sikoa in particular, gets the attention. No, the man, SmackDown will not be 3 hours. Noob says, it seems that I'm looking forward to WWE and Netflix next year. It's going to be exciting. I agree, and me too. Spider-Boss says, if somehow Liv defeats Becky, King and Queen of the Ring, I think Dominic will get involved helping Liv. Not a bad shout. Selvig says, a Ricky Starks and Hook on the way to leave AEW. Maybe one day, who can tell? DM says, just making sure... In real life, there is no personal beef between Punk and Drew. In real life, there is no personal beef between CM Punk and Drew McIntyre. Sean says Ronda also said in her book she wanted to face Shayna in a fight pit match at SummerSlam, but the idea was turned down. By this point, Vince kind of hated her. David said I just got an ad. Thank you, David. Always appreciate that. Everyone letting me know when ads come through. Eric also says ad came on a few minutes ago. I'm just trying to make sure they're not too bad, not too many of them. DM Punk, once again, Ronda Rousey's not wrong. Dylan says wait until the Monday of January. Netflix doesn't have any of the WWE content. Yeah. Then he says Chuck Taylor may never wrestle again due to injury. That sucks. Where's that report from, Zane? Spider-Boss says Ronda also mentioned in a book that Bruce Pritchard made Aaliyah cry after telling her nobody wanted to work with her, which simply was not true. As in, what Ronda has said is true, what Bruce Pritchard said, and I've had that confirmed by others, to be clear, was not true. JJ, don't have any update on Becky's contract. The WWE are expecting her to sign shortly. Joey says feels like Coolio will be the next one in WWE since both of his brothers are there now. Brandon says, in your opinion, do you see Orton being the one to win 17 titles, or WWE is not going to push anyone to break that record? I think Charlotte Flair will get there first. Jess says, what do you think about Ronda blaming her UFC losses on having multiple concussions, but then going into pro wrestling? That makes no sense. Why does it make no sense? Why are you going to get concussions in wrestling? Certainly not to the same level that you would in UFC. I don't know if you know this, but wrestling's supposed to be safer. What a name. Death Savior. You're literally saving death. The Grim Reaper owes you a thanks. And I owe you a thanks as well for subscribing on the YouTube side. Spider-Boss said at some point we should see Toni Storm versus Mina Shirakawa for the custody of Maria May. Why not? Sean says Misfits Wrestling Podcast was talking bad about you, Tom. It's nice to see people defending you. Yeah, Matt the Misfit, for those who don't recall, was a member of this community for about 2 years. And then he started making shit up, so I kicked him out. Of course he's going to talk bad about me. He's a dickhead. Kelvin says Cena want to put over talent. Difficult to believe 2010 Nexus and more. He was always going to win that one. Mark says Dave said WWE's worried about debuting Jacob in the Bloodline as he could outshine Solo. Is this true? Firstly, he is not the source of this one. WrestleVotes are the source of that one. And also, no. One says, imagine if Ronda Rousey writes a book about TK, if she ever works for him, best bet he should stay away from her. He would like to work with her, but she said no. Joey says, was Vince the one booking the Shayna and Ronda storyline? Yep. Dylan says, WWE really screwed themselves with that deal, given how much money they're going to make when Raw goes to Netflix next year. It could have honestly just got Netflix to do a secondary deal. Netflix were not interested. Okay, I believe I made that clear. Netflix simply were not interested. Death Savior says, Liv factors into more Judgment Day issues through Dom. Certainly could be a way of doing so. Certainly could be a way of upsetting that boat. Rob says, kudos Tom for thanking Dave. Very cool side note. Only reason I'm not here for all the watch-alongs is because I'm in his. As you're right, he's got a great positive vibe, but you're still my spoiler warning. Appreciate you, Robs, for that. I've been a fan of his for a while, primarily because of people like yourself, who sort of we share, like we have shared custody. And it just... if you guys like him, he has to be a good guy, DC says, hello there, Tom. It's been a while. Is there anything on Stardom wrestler Megan Bayan coming to the WWE? I've heard absolutely nothing about that, unfortunately. Spider-Boss says, I always wondered why WWE didn't give us Becky versus Ronda. Ronda versus Becky should have happened after WrestleMania 35. WrestleMania 35 was always going to be Charlotte Flair versus Ronda Rousey. Becky Lynch managed to force her way into it. Zane says, will Netflix get all the WWE Network content in the UK? That is the plan at this moment, yes. Angel says, do you think Netflix will make WWE Studios movies? No. DM says, do you like where AEW is going now? I think they're doing some very good stuff now, yes. Sean, you're asking for a spoiler and you know it. Razar says, at what point did Vince officially leave creative? Was he booking stuff in fall 2022? Yep. When Triple H was bringing back a bunch of people? Yep. He wasn't the head of creative while he was retired. Upon coming back, he immediately took over. As I said, he was heavily involved in last year's WrestleMania. I reported on that at the time. It's funny that no one picked up on the report until now. Spider-Boss says, tag team title reign of his dad, work with Rhea Ripley for almost 2 years, now possibly work with Liv. Dominic is one lucky boy. He's also not a bad wrestler. Next up, Bobby Lashley has been pulled off of the King of the Ring tournament bracket. Now, Angelo Dawkins replaces, and this tells us a lot. I've reached out to find out what the reasoning is, and from what I can tell, Bobby Lashley is not necessarily being pulled off in a way that will injure him, in a way that involves him being injured. Bobby Lashley is being pulled off for a good reason. And he's being pulled off because it creates an opportunity for Angelo Dawkins. Now, the thing is, the WWE kind of want to push Tama Tonga. The WWE very much want to push Tama Tonga, especially after being big fans of that tag team match. With Angelo Dawkins replacing Bobby Lashley, I definitely see Tama Tonga winning. And this definitely creates opportunities further on. For example, Tama Tonga versus Ilya Dragunov. You will know from my predictions that I did expect Tama Tonga to win. Anyway, there is no real concern about a long-term serious injury of Lashley. They are pulling him off nicely. As regards McIntyre and Asuka, McIntyre is not too seriously injured. They're just resting him up because they know they're going to be relying heavily on him in the weeks to come, particularly once there is a championship in play. As regards Asuka, she's a little more injured. I've reported on this previously. It's a long-term knee injury, and it is the reason that she's wearing the brace at the moment. Unfortunately, she's not recovering as fast or as cleanly as they were hoping for, so they're needing to protect her a little more than they expected to. She's not so hurt that she's not cleared, but the WWE have plenty of women in that division. They don't need to put everything onto Asuka's shoulders. Bailey says, wasn't WWE Studios a Vince project? I can't see TKO interested in doing movies. DM says, Dave Meltzer rated AJ versus Cody 5-star. What do you think about that? That will be a headline a little later. Sean says, who is winning Queen of the Ring? Sean, you always come in and ask for all of the match results, and you never get the answer. Never. How do you not know this by now? Angel says, do you think Damian Priest losing the title could result in a Judgment Day breakup? Yes. Spider-Bot says, if WWE needs a new opponent for Cody, Lashley is right there. He's just been pulled due to injury, so I find it unlikely. Razar says, maybe you could do a timeline video of when Vince was involved and not involved in creative after he first left. Like at times it felt like Triple H was running things, and at times Vince. Good idea, Razar. I'll write that down, actually. It's a good idea. Vince, creative, timeline. It's a very good idea. Appreciate that. Selvig says, is Tonga Loa going to be a tag team guy? Yes and no. Dylan says, this is purely just speculation. Do you see a War Games match between Roman's Bloodline and Solo's Bloodline? We're hearing that a lot, only from fans. Erin says, how is your day going? Going very well, thank you. Welcome to the show. Jeff says, is Shad Khan getting in the ring to avenge his son? No. Sean asks, why are Jade and Bianca in the tournament? To wrestle. They want to put some big names in it. It's McKay says, I hope I'm not saying something you've repeated, but can I get your predictions on the Queen of the Ring? You can on Wednesday. King of the Ring was on PLE Wednesdays this week. Queen of the Ring will be on PLE Wednesdays next week. Spider-Boss says, I think Jade Cargill will win Queen of the Ring and Dragunov will win King of the Ring. Those are my picks. Jess just goes, why not? DM Finn Balor is not going to be jobbing to Jey Uso every week. Really getting into this, aren't you? Mark says, you've watched a lot of New Japan. Can you explain to me and people what GOD were like? They were like the Usos, but tall and cool. And they had one of the best themes. I'm going to sing you the first line of it, because like it makes perfect sense. It's like, but with words. I just don't know what the words are. KJ says, that was a good idea. The Vince creative timeline, I'd definitely be interested. Wants to say... Fuck is going on out there? Wants to say, Tom, I know Mercedes Money will soon be TBS champion, but is there a chance he's double champ with the AEW women's title? I mean, there's always a chance, but I've already reported months ago that she'll be coming after the TBS championship. Only person that I'm aware of to report that, and I can't at this point report that she's going for the other championship as well. Noob says Tama Tonga will easily be destroyed by Ilya in a heartbeat. No, he won't. Spider-Boss says Gunter slapped so hard he really left a mark on Sheamus' back. No, Mark's here. Mark just asked about GOD. He's not on Sheamus' back. Are they actually the words? Because I genuinely at no point tried to learn it. That makes sense. That makes sense. Leon, gorilla as in guerrilla warfare. You might want to correct that. You don't want to say that. Sean says, never knew that Tangaloa was once Camacho. Yes. Roger says, are you a good singer? Only when I get real loud and I have a very mid-range. as in I'm mid. Dylan says, given how many people have wanted Jon Moxley to return, could he ever possibly return to WWE? If he wants to, yes. If he doesn't want to, no. Twitter is going extremely well at the moment. Just a quick update as to what we're doing over there. The aim is, within 90 days, to get 5 million impressions, as in 5 million views on our tweets. This is the incredible value of hitting like on a tweet, because right now, I'm growing faster than I've ever grown, and there's a reason for it. I've spoken about sim clusters previously. Sim clusters essentially is what Twitter uses to decide whether your tweet goes onto the For You page. Okay? Now, your tweet will go onto the For You page if it's considered something that the person seeing it wants to see. And the way that you can make sure that your tweet gets to those people is to ensure that you are liking and replying to a big range of people. If you hit like on, for example, a CM Punk tweet, then Twitter's algorithm will recognize that what you like, CM Punk fans might like as well, and it will show your work to people that are following CM Punk. It's that simple. If you are prolifically hitting like, prolifically retweeting, your work will be shown to more people. If you are constantly engaging with people who chat to you, your work will be shown to more people, which is why we are hitting 50, 60,000 views with only 3 or 4 tweets at times at the moment. We are at 3.8 million impressions. The target is 5 million. And don't tell anyone, but we're only 9 followers away from 9,000 on Twitter. This close to 6,000 on YouTube, this close to 9,000 on Twitter. It's a good time to be Tom Colohue. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Joey says, Conan said in his podcast Camille has been signed with AEW since February and TK still doesn't have any creative plans for her. Conan is not someone that AEW talk to. Bailey says, as part of this Vince timeline idea, when did he actually take over the booking, as he may have relied on others on his staff to book in the 1980s? Pretty much as soon as he was in charge of the company, every single second. The man never slept. Spiderball says, Christian Cage was asked about being in the Hall of Fame of WWE, and Christian said he doesn't give up, which is fitting his character. Joey says, I hope someone like Dexter Lumis in the Y6, he really needs a new character. I agree. DM says, Tonga Loa was one in the group with LA Knight and Drew McIntyre in TNA in 2015. Spiderball says, Adam Copeland, formerly known as Edge, said on the Chris Van Vliet show that WWE shut down his idea of bringing back Gangrel. Now, I need to talk about this because Edge has just exposed himself in a real big way. If everyone was saying no, why were there reports out there that this was going to happen? Why were there reports out there that this was going to happen if there was only one person who believed it was going to? I'm not going to say any more. You know what I'm saying, and you know why I'm saying it. Sylvie said, congrats on the milestone on Twitter and YouTube. Thank you, Sylvie. I appreciate you. Couple of last bits of news still to go over. CM Punk's rating on WWE 2K24 has been announced. He is in an upcoming DLC. He is rated at 90, which is a grand total of 1 more than Drew McIntyre. This will 100% be used by Drew McIntyre to advertise the DLC. I've already mentioned to you that Drew McIntyre, in his time off, is going to be advertising 2K24. Now we're seeing it live, immediately proving the point. Always a good piece of news to have immediately confirmed. Dylan says, given how many PLEs are outside of the US, I'm wondering why Triple H hasn't expanded outside of the US until now. That was a plan for a while. They were just putting together the logistics and the bidding process. Ricky says, hey Tom buddy, happy Friday. Happy Friday to you too. Michael, I agree. So I said something to Sky Blue. We are aware of what happened with Sky Blue. She responded saying thank you for the support. I made a comment essentially offering my support and made a point of not mentioning any physical appearance because, to put it simply, I don't care. She's doing good stuff in the wrestling world and I would personally want to be recognised for what I'm doing. Yeah, there was a reply to that tweet saying she's not going to touch you, bro. So essentially, if you offer support to a woman, these people can only imagine a world in which you're being nice to someone to fuck them. What that tells me is that these people have never been nice to a woman that they don't want to fuck, which tells me they're arseholes. And in fact, when they post something like that, in a chain to Sky Blue, you are just confirming that you are the same arsehole who she had kicked out for being an absolute crackhead. Cool? Cool. Thanks for bringing that up, Michael. I had feelings. DM6, thanks for the great chat. Looking for the next one. Thank you again for answering all my questions. No worries, DM. Anytime you've got questions, by all means. This channel grows because of questions. Juan says, for me, hey Tom, speaking of Edge, WrestleNomics showed his main event didn't draw. Both Q7 and Q8, about 70k people in total tuned in. He's not a draw. Spider-Boss says, for me, one of the best heels. It's weird to see Adam Copeland, formerly known as Edge, as a babyface. DMs, I've already read that one. Yeah, it was interesting, it's McCade. Also, DM, I've read that, mate. Calm down. Eric says, do you like Joe Hendry? Man knows how to get people talking. Sean says, see that Saraya told the cameraman to kick a fan out. Yeah, and they will keep doing so. Because at the moment, there's just a lot of sexist bitches. Jess says, many things like that so annoying. Selvig says, never met a woman in their lives. They clearly have a very bad relationship with their mother. Because either they're into incest or their mothers hate them. Angel says, I'm glad Saraya put those fans in their place. Mark is surprised I'm swearing. Eric says, Tom, I'll leave for 10 minutes now. You're swearing. Sometimes it's needed. JJ says, I think a show in Ireland will be huge. You can see Becky, Finn, Lyra, Sheamus and JD on Raw. Very true. You know what else would be big? Shows in the US, because they've got quite a lot of people from the US as well. Spider-Boss says, Saraya called out some pervs. Sean says, if this keeps continuing, do you think Tony Khan will do something about it? You can't check if someone's a perv outside of the sex offenders register when you sell them a ticket. He did what he could. As soon as it was brought to his attention, they were gone. They are very proactive on this. There is no fault and no blame at AEW here. Okay, just want to be very clear here. AEW did everything right. They don't always. They definitely did now. WWE's PR. Do you guys remember, after Backlash, someone got in trouble for asking a question about Drew Gulak that resulted in Triple H saying, I probably shouldn't trust PWInsider and Fightful? Apparently, immediately after asking the question, what a member of WWE PR said to, and I won't name him, said to the individual that it was a stupid thing to ask. Now, PWInsider and Fightful have had apologies. Fightful got cheese. This particular individual got nothing. He got left out to dry. And I would like to ask what PWInsider and Fightful have done for this individual. Weird as it sounds, maybe you should give him your fucking cheese. I digress. I digress. It's McKay says, I wish there were some more English wrestlers in WWE, especially on the women's side. There's no representation. There's little representation. There's quite a lot of English women's wrestlers. They just need to bring them in. Selvig says, does WWE have rules for pervs and creeps on their shows? Yep, pretty much the same as AEW's. Jess says, fans trying to pin the blame on Sky Blue's ring attack. Okay, Jess, that was literally one person who was amplified till the end of time. Amplified till the end of time. One dickhead. Admittedly, yes, there's plenty more out there, but there was one that everyone was really making a beeline for. And what you've done is guaranteed that their tweets are going to be seen by millions. That's what Twitter does now. You get attacked, you get ratioed, you become more popular. I think JD from NY does it. Ugh. You're right though, Jess. When it comes to a pervert, They'll say it to anyone. Ole, welcome. Says AEW does a very good job trying to weed this out. They even have a code of conduct message in the arena. Sean says, any news on when MJF will return? Not at this point. Dev Savior says, does Triple H see Liv as a star, or is this push mostly from internet hype? Triple H does see Liv Morgan as a potential star, depends how the heel turn goes. Eric says, I actually have an interesting idea. Let Becky keep the belt for King of the Ring, and then if they want Liv to truly be a despised heel, let her win at Clash at the Castle, where they might treat Becky like a hero. I don't know, they love Liv as well. Bayley was a heel for a long time. She still wanted to be our girl. Or she didn't. She never confirmed it. I just want to know. Sammy Guevara's suspension has been lifted. I can confirm Dave Meltzer's report. Sammy Guevara is not going to be immediately dropped back into TV. He has some apologies to make, and there is some retraining that he has to agree to. Yeah, they're really going to make him work for it, and so they should. He's been suspended a few times now. He's got in a lot of trouble. He needs to make some amends. The ticket prices for Clash at the Castle was featured on the BBC News. You know why? Because they were ridiculously expensive and nobody in the UK can quite believe it. It's still going to sell out. The WWE remain confident. The WWE think it's mostly sold out already. But then scalpers. I've been doing a lot of whispering lately. By the way, we have 85 people watching and only 59 likes. One more gets us to 60, guys. Let's keep this train rolling. What is going on with my hand? Anyway, keep that train rolling, guys. BBC News, going on the attack at the WWE over Clash at the Castle prices. I've been covering this as well. They are extortionate. Spider-Boss says Triple H hasn't done well in the last press conferences. First taking shots at Ospreay, now took a shot on Fightful and PWInsider. I wonder if he'll apologise during the next one, or maybe just not bother. Because yes, these press conferences, people get annoyed when there's a real question. Why should you acknowledge Roman Reigns? Why is that a thing? It's supposed to be a press conference. Spider-Boss says, what do you think about Jericho's new gimmick, the Learning Tree? Can't stand it, can't stand him. Juan says, another apology to Mercedes money from Sammy G coming soon. Nope. Apology was already made there and she's accepted it. Which leaves us with our final thing to cover. Cody Rhodes versus AJ Styles in the main event of Backlash got 5 stars from Dave Meltzer. Did it deserve 5 stars? Yes, because Dave Meltzer decides what is worth 5 stars from Dave Meltzer. If it decided the match was worth 1 star, would it be deserving of 1 star? Yes, because Dave Meltzer decides on the opinions of Dave Meltzer, and it's literally just an opinion. I think it was a great match. Personally, I would rate it as the 3rd best match of the night. I'd give it a 4 star, but I would give it an A if I was grading not quite an A+. That's how I would rank it, and I personally really quite enjoyed it. But what I will say is that Cody Rhodes and AJ Styles could not give a damn about star ratings. Both of them are on the record of kind of hating Dave Meltzer. Hector says WWE sending SRS cheese. He's just out trolling the troll and it's amazing. Yeah, he doesn't realise he's not in on the joke there, does he? Bless him. It's McKay says, I want to see Austin Theory back in that single push soon. Days not to come. Spider-Boss says, about apologies. Wrestling media should apologise to Mercedes Money after all the clickbait about her. Wrestling media should apologise to a lot of people. Jack says, Clash of the Castle setup is 11,119. There's sold 9,809 already. There's 1,372 left to sell. A little more than 1 month left at Clash of the Castle. To be fair, they've only been out for a while and WWE remain confident. Thank you, Jack, for bringing us those exact stats. I appreciate you for making sure we had a much better picture of exactly what's going on. Kevin said Dave Meltzer can give AJ Lee versus Cody Rhodes 5 stars, but not Kurt Angle. I haven't seen AJ Lee versus Cody Rhodes, but I tell you what, that would probably be a banger. And speaking of bangers, I believe, spoiler warning tonight, has been a bit of a banger. We've been live for an hour. We are going to wrap it up here. We peaked at 60 likes. We peaked at 105 viewers, and we have peaked at 333 views. Did we make 9,000 subscribers? Nope. Did we make 6,000 subscribers? I don't know. Did we make 9,000 followers on Twitter? I don't know. But you know when I'm going to find out? Very, very soon. Because it is time to say goodbye. Thank you, everyone. I've been Tom Colohue. You have been fantastic, and I'll see you all very soon.